Hello, Otafest listeners, and welcome back to the Otafest podcast.
Yay!
I'm back from Japan,
Yay!
and so are some of our other friends.
Hello, back from Japan. Who are you? What's your name?
I'm Dio.
I'm Angelo.
I'm Nancy.
And I'm still here, and I'm Jay.
I'm still here.
Yep.
Still here, who did not go to Japan yet.
Buh. This year.
Soon.
Welcome back.
Yep.
I missed you guys.
We missed you too.
And you all missed Tier 1 of the early bird savings.
Yes.
Oh.
So get your weekend passes right now at the current early bird price of $59.37 after event bright fees at otafest.com. Don't miss the second tier.
Don't miss it again.
You gotta get that savings.
Come on.
You got to use those savings to go to Japan.
Exactly.
No, just go to Otafest.
And then Japan.
Well, yeah, you go to
It's
Otafest
the next best thing.
as you're in Japan. Yeah, true, in Japan. You just take the whole Otafest event and we just put it in Japan.
Oh, God.
Oh my God.
The logistics.
Don't put ideas in my head.
I just gave
No, can we do it?
everyone,
I wanna do it like a reverse.
All staff a nightmare.
No, I want to do it like a reverse event where we're in Japan and we host a Western convention.
What?
Come have
do like a Calgary Stampede.
Yeah,
No.
exactly. I was just gonna like have a pancake breakfast
Oh,
and
no. Cowboy
we'll have
hats
panels
everywhere.
about
Stampede-o-fist.
we'll have panels
Oh my
about oil
God.
and
Yeah, the panels are about energy production and
Truck
agriculture. Yes.
Cowboy boots.
yeah.
Although
cowboy
I will
hats.
say, the merch that comes out of an Otafest like that would probably be pretty top tier.
It'd
It
be
would be pretty
legendary.
sick.
Anyways,
Don't do this to me, Dio. Don't do this to me.
I
Again.
did buy a lot of merch while we were on the trip. I did learn the lesson of I thought I had packed light. No, I had not, and I had to play packing Tetris to get everything back home after.
Okay.
We were checking out at Donkey. We were going through the checkout line. And you know how, like, you see memes of people just pull out their arm and shove everything from a shelf into, like, their basket or their cart? Dio did that, literally that, with Kit Kats.
Was that Dio?
Dio bought,
jeez.
was it
The
10 or
Kit
12
Kats are like at
boxes
the
of Kit
front of
Kats?
the store. The Kit Kats at the front of the store. You
They
can just
had
grab
them
like
right
a
at the very
whole-
front of the tax-free line.
Yeah, I had the
because
very
they
start of
know
the tax-free line.
that's marketing.
They
Dio
know
for
it's
you.
spent
order bait.
$90 on Kit Kats alone.
I think
Oh
I
my
bought because I
gosh.
bought 2 boxes of each flavor, and the flavors were sake, hojicha, apple, strawberry, and wasabi. So 10 boxes.
Bangers.
Oh, they didn't have.
All
Do
of
they have
them.
pumpkin yet?
They did not have pumpkin. I did look for it.
pumpkin's
They did
good.
not have it yet.
I
The
tried
sake
the
one
wasabi
is
Kit
50-50
Kats last
for me.
night. They
Yeah.
were actually fantastic.
I
of them are
love
pretty good.
the sake one. The
I
sake
will
and
say-
the hojicha are my favorite.
Not every Kit Kat flavor is a hit, unfortunately. But I mean, that's also like
Yeah.
subjective to taste or whatnot. But like most of them are pretty on brand. The hojicha one is pretty tasty.
The hojicha one is so good.
I love the hojicha one. The sake one is also very flavorful and on brand. I would say the worst flavor is actually apple. The apple is kind of just meh. It's really meh. It's not bad. It's just
That's really interesting.
That's sad
because,
for me. I thought it would have been
Yeah,
good.
because like Japan really likes apples.
yes.
I know. That's why I was like, this is going to be amazing. And it was just kind of like, it's not
Yeah.
bad, but it's just kind of meh.
What surprised me the most, I half expected the wasabi Kit Kat to be like a joke flavor, a prank flavor. Something that like you give to someone to be like, ha ha, get a load of this. But no, it was legitimately extremely pleasant.
Yeah, it's a very pleasant, like, flavor. It's... if you had told me that you could combine wasabi and chocolate, I'd be like, yeah, you're making that up. That's not real. But it actually, like, and it does have that nice, like, you know when you eat, like, wasabi, like, good wasabi at least.
And
you
it
kind
gets
of,
in your
It gets in
sinuses?
your sinuses. Like, it does that. It does
Okay,
that.
but you say good wasabi, but that's still like the horseradish.
It's still horseradish.
It's still horseradish,
Here's the question:
yes.
like,
It's-
did any of you have actual wasabi?
Oh, I absolutely did.
Oh, okay. I want to hear from Nancy then, because I
Yeah.
didn't.
It's a different.
Okay.
It's a different taste profile.
Yeah, it tastes sweeter. It's more fragrant. The burn is significantly reduced. It's not about the kick. It's just about like a pleasant tingle.
That's what I would say the wasabi Kit Kats were like. Like, it had a nice sweetness. It had that pleasant tingle, but not the sort of like horseradish like burn. But it was still, I don't think it was like proper like expensive wasabi still, like, because it's a
Well, no,
mass-produced
they're not
product.
gonna. Yeah.
But it definitely was like, compared to like the wasabi you get in a restaurant here, it was like much more pleasant, more pleasant than I expected.
Interesting. I'm surprised you were shocked by that combination because if you think about it, like spicy chocolate has definitely been a thing for a while.
It's definitely a thing, right? Like chili chocolate is a huge thing.
Huge.
It's just that wasabi isn't spicy exactly. It's a completely different flavor
Yeah, it's
profile.
not a capsaicin.
It does not
But-
contain capsaicin at all.
But the theory there is still similar. Let's add something that has a bit of a burn to it to chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally different in that sense.
I want Sichuan pepper chocolate.
I bet that would be amazing,
lingering.
actually.
That would be so
Yes.
cool.
I'm pretty sure
I
that
would try
exists.
it.
I feel like I've seen that.
Maybe.
I would
I'd
back
try it.
that on Kickstarter.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen it somewhere.
Now, this was such a fantastic vacation, and one of the best parts of it was that while we kind of planned it separately, Nancy and Sean and Dio and I were in the same cities at the same time, give or take. So one of the first few nights in Kyoto, Nancy and Sean are like, hey, do you guys want to come to Restaurant Alley with us? We don't know where we're eating. All we know is that we're going to find something amazing.
It will be amazing, I promise. And that's basically all I said. And they were like, yep, we're in. We'll see you there.
Yep.
And so we're walking down this narrow alley, lined with restaurant after restaurant, smell after delectable smell, until we finally come across something that we can't possibly walk away from.
It was the one. It was
The one.
the Unagi restaurant. And all
The Unagi restaurant.
all they specialize in is unagi. Unagi don, unagi noodles, unagi. They had unagi dumplings. I was like, what?
Yeah, it was unagi everything.
Oh,
And it
that's
was so
interesting.
good.
I wouldn't have thought that unagi meat is well made for dumplings. You know, like
I think you have to mix it and make sure that there's a very specific fat percentage.
something like
Like
that.
you can't you wouldn't be able to just like pure no. That sounds so wrong to say. Puree unagi and do like a
but
dumpling
that's exactly what it
filling.
is. Like while you can make things like, you know, there's fish meatballs like surimi and stuff like that, but that's actually
Mm-hmm.
a combination of either other fish or like just with different kinds of meats.
Yeah, I imagine
or-
you have to blend it unless you want it to be very
Yeah.
purist about it.
It's very interesting. I want to
Yeah,
go there.
but it was so good.
I'm just taking notes. This entire episode is just me taking more notes for my trip.
yeah, of, like
absolutely.
things to try.
Like, next time that we're in Kyoto, I kind of want to get a hotel
A
walking
restaurant.
distance to Restaurant Alley, just so that we can go back there every single night.
Yeah, so
Have
Find
something
something
different.
new.
it was walking distance for us. We stayed in Gion, and Gion is like a cultural hub. That's where all the maiko
It's
are. That's where
old
the geisha are. That's where all the very expensive restaurants that like line the river, because there's a river that runs north south
Yes,
through Kyoto
yes.
for a good chunk of it. And along the river are just very, very expensive restaurants with huge patios overlooking.
Huge balconies overlooking the river.
And this was one on the other side of Pontocho, so no balcony overlooking the river, but like directly facing one that would have been. And it was this tiny little restaurant, probably had 8 tables,
Yeah, it was pretty tiny.
but damn, so good. And that was Dio's. That wasn't your first Japanese beer. I think you were actually doing some comparisons between that and a different one you'd had.
Yes. So I've had I've had lots of Japanese beer, but like, you know, I've had Sapporo, I've had Asahi, but the thing about like beer, Japanese beer is like, unless you get like import stuff like Hitachi no Nest, most of like the Japanese beers that you drink in like Canada are brewed usually in the US. It's using
Or
the
Canada.
same or Canada.
Like
It's using-
Asahi is brewed by Molson.
Yeah. So it's the same recipe, but it's using like local Canadian ingredients, which does, alter the flavor profile. Having Asahi in Japan, and I was really blown away because that was the first that was the first time we had sat down and actually had alcohol the whole trip. I was like, oh, you can taste the difference.
Absolutely.
You can absolutely taste the difference. It does, like, it's the difference of brewing something with rice or like local barley versus with wheat. Mm-hmm. Like, the taste is it's a much sweeter beer in Japan.
Yeah. Dio had like a time getting over how different that tasted, that meal.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, this is like, Asahi is a very easy drinking beer. Like, I would say it's a very light, like, it's an everyman's beer that is slightly elevated over like a Molson or a Coors. Asahi in Japan was like, whoa, this is a nice, easy drinking beer. Like, this is like, there's a distinctly sweet,
it's
rice flavor.
It's not particularly, in a sense, it's not surprising if you think about like the logistics of it, right? Because they're not going to be
of course.
exporting like anything from the water to the local hops and other ingredients that they might use for brewing. Yeah, yeast and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Like, one of the weird things, I don't know if it's not likely, because I don't think a lot of adults don't drink milk that often. But if you go to a different country and try just like their 1 or 2% milk or whatnot, you will taste it, and like either you will taste it to be so different that you're going to be like, either you hate that milk or you really like that milk, but it's more likely that you might hate it.
You don't even have to change countries for that. Ontario milk versus Alberta milk is also completely different.
Fair.
Don't you say that, but then you remember that Canada's the second biggest country in the world. Yes, there's going to be a lot of easy regional variation in our production of
just because Canada is so big
product. But yes,
it's good that you point that out, because I did have Japanese milk and I did not like it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Tell me why.
The flavor profile is different, and I was like, I don't like this.
Oh,
I'm gonna throw it out there that, like, if you have like flavored milk or something like that, maybe if you had like a strawberry or banana milk, it might not have been as bad.
Flavored milks were fine.
Yeah,
flavored milks or milk soda was fine.
Yeah, but if you have just like the general milk product of a different country or region, I think milk is one of those really ingrained flavor profiles in a person, because we tend to drink it when we're young, and if you didn't move around a lot, you probably had more or less the same tasting product for a long time, and then you kind of go there and you're like, you have this expectation of what milk needs to taste like.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like, it wasn't that Japanese milk tastes bad. It's that my brain, my brain expects milk to taste a certain way.
Yeah.
But when I put it in my mouth, I'm like, this is not what milk is supposed to taste like.
So back to this unagi restaurant. Mm-hmm. Nancy and Sean got this amazing hot stone bowl full of barbecue unagi and rice.
Yep.
It was
stone bowl.
Gorgeous.
It was
wonderful.
Delicious. I have a little looping video of it sizzling, and I'm just like, I can't let this go.
Yes. It was almost too beautiful to eat.
But we did anyway.
Not even close. It was made to be devoured.
It was so good. There was not a single grain of rice left in that bowl when we were done.
Yeah, it got devoured. And like, that was the case for, I think, pretty much all of the food we ate on the trip, which was, it got devoured.
Yes.
With a handful of exceptions.
In my case in particular, I got a bad case of food poisoning from some airline food. So that was one of the first nights where I was starting to feel normal again, where I could actually eat again. Aww. But I wanted to get something a little bit safer to eat. Unagi, I love unagi. But when it comes to eel or any kind of seafood, I'm just like, wait till I'm feeling 100%.
Sure.
So I went with a nice gyudon, and they had wagyu gyudon at this place, and I'd never actually had Wagyu before, so I was kind of excited. I was feeling here for it. And I'm going to say it's not that it tasted bad. It tasted wonderful, but I was disappointed.
Yeah, I wasn't. I will say, was the Wagyu good? Yes. Was it everything that it was hyped up to be? In my opinion, no. But I am also a spoiled Albertan.
That's the thing. Alberta beef is a cut above the rest.
I've said this so many times. I find that the issue with Wagyu is that, first of all, it's probably overhyped in the sense that people are expecting some otherworldly experience. Number two is that it is not really similar to the core experience of what I think good beef is. It's it's almost too fatty. The texture is almost like
too rich
too
and fatty.
off.
Yeah.
It's too different from, like, I like the fibrousness of meat. I like the the mouthfeel of most meat, like
a good
standard
steak,
beef. Products.
So you
it's
say
kind
this,
of like,
and I'm just reminded of
interesting.
something from my youth, where the first time I had moose steak,
Oh.
Oh boy.
and it is the toughest meat that I've ever had. Every bite was like chewing bubble gum, but it was so flavorful
Yes.
and so good. It did have a gamey taste to it, but when I think back to that, I think that I enjoyed this moose just grilled on a barbecue more than I liked the Wagyu. Even though it was an objectively much more exercise-focused eating experience.
Yeah. Like, I didn't dislike the Wagyu at all.
I'm glad I tried it.
Me too. I'm glad I tried it.
And I had no beef for the rest of the trip.
Correct. Yeah, I was like, great.
You didn't even go to McDonald's?
Okay, we did have McDonald's beef, but does that really count?
That is why I generally don't get Wagyu. Like I've had it before, and yeah,
It's
like
good
you
to
guys are
have
saying,
it.
it's fine. It's fine. It's just it's not the same experience as having something from some of the more locally ranched cattle.
Yeah, that's all it is.
Now, one thing that Dio and I did encounter, we encountered on multiple occasions duck-based dishes, specifically
so good.
duck udon.
Yes. So, if you don't know, Japan's cuisine is very, very regional and very, very seasonal. Duck is currently in season for that island, and so is muscat grapes. So a lot of the desserts we were having were
so that's
muscat
why we kept
focused.
seeing those grapes.
And they were so good. And the duck food, like, to us, because we're from Alberta, duck is an expensive food and beef is a cheap food. In Japan, at least where we were because of the seasonality, it was the reverse. Beef was an expensive out of season food and duck was a cheaper in season food. But you bet that I ate all the duck that was ever presented in front of me.
As much duck as possible.
It was fantastic. Like, we have our New Year's duck tradition, and for once, this is the first time ever that I've had duck outside of New Year's, and it felt a little bit sacrilegious.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, you
you're
felt like you
cheating,
were
you're
cheating.
cheating on.
I was cheating.
You
I
know,
was cheating on duck.
You know, I see how this is.
And I'm not
but I
sorry.
appreciate that you had to go cross an entire ocean just to cheat. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah. It's I don't know if you've ever heard of, like, I don't want to get all the details wrong, but there's like this one dish that's like popular in like old Europe, I think maybe like in Italy or somewhere like that, where, you know, of balut, like the Philippine
Yes.
Okay.
egg
Yeah.
dish where you're kind of eating essentially an embryo of I think it's a chicken. And then there's
Yes,
a
it's
similar
chicken.
dish like that.
Chicken egg.
Yeah, there's a similar dish like that in Europe, but it's like you're essentially eating an animal fetus, but it's not an animal fetus. It is a bird. I can't remember which kind. I don't
Birds
want
are
to Google
animals.
it because I don't need more details. But I do remember that they almost consider it sacrilegious because it's part of the ritual of eating it is that you actually have to put a shroud over yourself, and you're sort of eating Like your head is underneath the shroud and you're eating it, and the tradition says you do that because you're trying to hide from God as you're like devouring this like
Devouring
not so
fetus.
That's
this
magical.
not so
That's-
wholesome meal.
Mildly cursed.
I know.
I agree with that. I don't know. I'm not down with eating fetuses personally. So if you have to hide your shame in eating
Yeah.
this food, I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Yes, do it. Be
I think
ashamed.
Be ashamed. Yeah.
Be ashamed. But yeah, the food was amazing. I will say, I really enjoyed eating Western food, and I'm saying that with the preface of what we think of Western food is like the food that we eat every day. What Japan
what we think
thinks
of
is
is Western food.
Yeah, like, but what Japan thinks of as Western food is sort of like its own third thing that's kind of been like catered to Japanese tastes.
You know
Yeah.
what
And
it
it's
is.
It's like
Great.
it's the equivalent of like Chinese food here, or like
Japanese.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. Japanese Western food is to us what Western Chinese food is to like you guys.
Yeah.
Nancy.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
That's,
And it was great. I loved it.
I don't know, Jay. Would you say that like Canadian Chinese food, for example, is like Canadians adopted some Chinese cuisine, or would you say that it's
a mix.
Chinese chefs who came to Canada that created something for the Canadian palate? Because that's what I thought
Well,
it was.
that's what it is.
It's-
It's literally
it's-
Chinese chefs who came to Canada and made food
Yeah.
for Canadians.
Yeah, but if in the case of Japan though, they've always been very open to culture sharing, and like food is no exception. Like Japanese Italian food has been a thing for a very long time, but I think the game really went up this time. We had
Yeah, it was
omurice.
everywhere.
We had an omurice at like a random omurice
Yeah, the
restaurant
risotto
in
omurice.
Shinjuku Station. And their specialty on the day was mushroom cream risotto under the omelet. And it was like
It was so cool.
a fantastic white wine cream of mushroom risotto. And it was amazing. I needed to sit there and watch Angelo take his first bite because I was like, Hook, I'm just going to sit here and watch.
It was
Just
heavenly.
give me this one moment.
Yeah.
I need to see.
Like it's very interesting because it's just like you just took an Italian dish, which is risotto, and then you put like the Japanese style omelet on top, and it's magical. Like it's the most magical fusion. And you'll see the same thing with like French cuisine, where it's like it's French pastries, but sort of done in this like uniquely Japanese way that is so yummy and so refreshing.
I think the most interesting fusion food that I saw, and I wish I'd ordered it, was Dio and Sean ordered this udon carbonara.
Yes.
Yes,
And it was
it was
amazing.
amazing.
It looked
It was life
so
changing.
good.
Yeah, like I don't know what's going on. Japanese Western food is really good. Like there is there is just the magic of taking like two cultures and letting them have a food baby and seeing what happens. Because when it comes to Italian cuisine and Japanese cuisine, they are a match made in heaven. It's really good.
So delicious. I loved it.
I will state that like on the flip side, and this is weirdly, it's not on Japan. I don't like the fusion restaurants that we have here.
Yes.
Oh, I will
Generally
also agree
speaking.
with that.
That's fair.
I don't know why.
I will
Like I
agree.
can say that, but I've been to several, and they've always been disappointing and overpriced, which makes me sad. You can
I think
only be
that's the
one,
problem.
in
Is
my
there-
opinion.
They're really
expensive.
overpriced.
They're expensive, and they don't like the best part about good fusion food is it takes the best parts of each cuisine and elevates them together. Whereas it feels like fusion food like that you eat locally is like, okay, you can eat a little bit from this culture's cuisine and a little bit from here and a little bit from here, but it's not the three of them married together.
No,
Like it's
On
like
top of
three
that-
separate things that you can just order from.
You're paying a premium over here. Like that udon carbonara was like 11 or 12 bucks Canadian.
Was
Did
it?
any
Or
of
was it more
you-
like 9?
It might have been. Like it was cheap.
I thought it was like
This is
$9.
one thing that was like Actually, no, you're right. It was less than 1,000
It
yen.
was.
I remember that night, my curry udon was the most expensive dish at 1,200 yen.
Yeah, I think my whole meal, which was a beer and the udon, was 990 yen.
My noodle dish that night was like $7.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, the simple conversion for yen right now is basically it's $1 is 100 yen. Technically, it's like $1 is about 108 yen right now, I think.
110 or 100 something.
It's close enough that I just say 100 yen is $1.
Yeah, it's close enough that 100 to 1 works.
Yeah, so when you're saying you have a meal with a beer in Japan for 1,100 yen, that's $11, and that's stupid cheap compared to here. You could go to, like, if you're gonna have a meal with a beer for a place that serves beer, I would say it's safely $17 to $20.
Yeah.
I would 100% agree with that. Like,
and you're not gonna get it. It's unlikely you'll get something for 15 or under.
Yeah, and then if you're going to, like, as Angelo said, like a fusion restaurant, you're also going to pay a premium for that it's a fusion of different things.
Yeah.
Whereas in Japan, it's just like, yeah, why wouldn't it be a fusion?
Yeah.
Why the hell not?
I was wondering if any of you went
Same
to
price.
had like visited a chain restaurant either, and I'm not talking about McDonald's this time. I'm talking about like a Yoshinoya or
We
what's it, like
kept
a
seeing
Mitsuru.
them. I kept seeing like Moss Burger and Yoshinoya, and I was like, we should go there. We should try it. And anytime we were hungry, we couldn't find them.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
really
that's
funny.
funny.
The same thing happened to us. It was like, yeah, I'll make time to visit a Yoshinoya this time. Like, no. Every time we got hungry, it was like, we're in Shinjuku Station. What's here?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, I don't feel like I've missed out on anything doing that. While I'm very certain Moss Burger and Yoshinoya are fantastic, I feel like I do want to try them eventually.
Next time.
Next time.
Yep,
And quite frankly, everywhere that we went to for food
was amazing.
was fantastic. Like that
I'm only-
udon place where you guys had the carbonara udon
Yeah.
with the beer. Mm-hmm. That was as expensive as going to McDonald's and getting a Big Mac combo.
Yep.
Yeah.
How
I'm
much
only
is a
pointing
Big
out
Mac
like a
combo?
Yoshinoya.
Now.
A Big
don't
Mac
know.
combo here is like almost $10, if
Yeah.
not more.
No, it's
Yeah.
over that. It's over $10.
Yeah.
It's over $10
Yeah, it's over
now?
$10,
Holy shit.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Goddamn.
But the only reason I
We
even
did go
bring
to
up like a chain
McDonald's.
restaurant, I only bring up like the chain restaurant experience only because like you'll get a full meal there with like rice and soup and like your like item that you ordered, and it will be like it's a full meal, and it's gonna be like $7.
Exactly.
Like,
Like, you're going to
it-
spend under 1,000 yen pretty
Yeah.
consistently,
Yeah.
which is like impossible to do here.
Most Japanese restaurants for like orderable items, they kind of just have this thing where you can either get the item or you can make it a combo, which is a very Western thing to say.
The
but
setto.
they call it a set.
Setto.
And so if you
Yeah,
would
a
also
set
like
meal.
No, it's not a
drink
set. It's a
and dessert.
setto.
It's a setto. But like if you would like a drink and a dessert, cool. That's like an extra $1. The set
Yeah, it's
is
like-
still under $10.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, you still will eat, like, you will easily eat a full meal, like, or like a full combo for like less than $10, which
I
you
ate like a
can't
queen
do
this
here.
trip. I'm not gonna lie.
I ate so well.
I don't want to. I mean, we've already made the listeners very hungry and either nostalgic or upset or whatnot. But because there's a lot more
Let's
to talk
get
about
onto our
for
highlights
Japan.
of the trip.
Yeah, there's
let's-
definitely more to share than just the food because
Skip
you
right
could
to
go
that.
on forever.
For me, the highlight is so easy. We went to Nara, to the city of Nara, and the thing about Nara is they love their deer. And their deer love your cookies. So you go there, you just get off the train, you go walk down the road, you buy a pack of cookies for $2, and the deer swarm you.
They know.
They come up, they bow, and if you do not give them their cookie, within seconds, they start chewing on your shirt. They start butting your leg.
Yeah, they're bullies,
Sean
dude.
actually got full-on headbutt by a deer with antlers.
Yeah.
It
They're
was
bullies.
wonderful.
That happened.
They're little assholes. They're great.
But you-
I love
we
it.
talked- I think we
love
talked
the
about
deer
this.
so much.
I think we talked about
Yes.
this. You can absolutely
I
exact
talked
your
about my
revenge.
excitement to go here, and it delivered.
You can
Everything
exact
about
your
Nara
revenge.
was exactly what I wanted.
You can eat the deer.
You can. We
Yeah,
didn't eat
you
the
can
deer.
eat them.
The
There's
deer are
restaurants
supposed
that
to be
just serve
the
sacred
deer.
there, guys.
But you can
No.
eat them. They cull them, and then they put
Yeah.
them. They serve them in the restaurant. You can eat them.
You can feed the deer, and then you can go to a restaurant and eat the deer. What's wrong with that? That is
Yeah.
everything.
That's
is the circle of life.
Yep. Exactly what I was gonna say.
So we went to Nara for the second time, and it was really, really delightful to see Dio and Angelo enjoying themselves. That was my third time, actually. It was my second time with Sean. But we also ended up going to the island of Miyajima, and Miyajima have deer everywhere as well. And on Miyajima, people don't feed the deer. So they are super chill compared to the Nara deer. They're used to people not feeding them, but they're also just used to lots of people being around. So they're happy to just hang out in shared spaces with you, same as the Nara deer. Less screaming, which was nice. The screaming deer at Nara was a bit cursed sounding.
They
It
scream.
was haunting. It's a
I've never been.
no.
Damn.
God, the deer sounds in Nara were just hilarious.
It was so great. But yeah, the deer in Miyajima are very, very chill. We went, I would say that the overall theme for this trip for me was just more like nighttime activities and more like things that we went out at night to do. Because in Miyajima, we went out at night to just go walk through like the beach, the town, go see a whole bunch of UNESCO World Heritage sites at night. And the deer in Miyajima were just so chill. Like I would just be walking down the street, and sometimes a deer would make itself clear that it was not just like a shadowy blob off to the side. It would just like it would move every now and again. Sometimes they do just come up to you and headbutt you for no particular reason other than to be like, hey, you're in my way, or like, hey, that's where I was about to go. Why are you interrupting me?
God.
So it was just
Yep.
it was just like a very different experience going from Nara and then going and seeing them again in Miyajima. They're totally different like behavioral patterns.
Just because of how far removed they are.
Probably.
I will say my favorite part of the trip, my highlight of the trip, was also being kind of far removed. I really wanted to do an onsen trip, and I had a couple of like really specific requirements that I wanted to do for an onsen trip. Number one was I wanted it to be mixed bathing because I wanted to like be able to bathe with Angelo and for it to be an experience for both of us, as opposed to like, hey, we're staying at this hotel for a night or two, I'll see you later type of thing. And I wanted it to be like a proper outdoor bath. Like I didn't want to do an indoor hot spring. I wanted to be able to be outside in nature. And so, you know, those two requirements are kind of hard to meet already. But in addition, you know, I didn't want it to be like a place in the city. Like I didn't want to go to like something where I'm just gonna look outside and I'm looking at a garden and a bunch of like high rises. Like I want to actually be somewhere in nature and enjoy the nature of the bath. So it was like, okay, I'm adding, you know, things that make it more and more and more difficult. But we ended up finding a ryokan. The exact one I went to was Gorokaku, which is in a little tiny town called Oigami Onsen. And it's like, it's out in the mountains. We had to take a Shinkansen 1 hour out of Tokyo and then ride a bus from the last city with the Shinkansen 1 hour to this tiny little village. Like honestly, it was a village because there was nothing in the village except these like 5 onsen hotels. But we got to have this like beautiful bathing experience where you have these natural like hot baths. It's like beautiful mountain water. Like my skin has never been so soft in my life. I've never been so relaxed in my life.
Yep.
And like the best part was like one of the things I wanted to do was like I was so shy the whole trip to like try and talk to people, because I was like, I know my Japanese isn't very good, but like I wish I could like even try to converse with people. And it was so much less awkward in the bath. I made two friends in the bath with like
we met an Oji-san and a salaryman.
We met an Oji-san and a salaryman, and we got to make some friends, which was very, very cool. And then after the bath, we also made friends with two other guests who were a couple from Hong Kong who had, by their own description, had been to Japan like 14 times. Like that was just the thing. That was where they liked to go on vacation, which was like, whoa.
Understandable.
I can't imagine.
I can feel that.
Totally can understand it. But it was like such a good highlight for me because like we got to do so much resting and relaxing. Like all we did at this hotel was eat, sleep, and bathe. That's it. That was all we did for 2 days. And it was awesome.
Amazing.
My whole life people have been like, oh, you should meditate, it's like it's good for your health and it's good for your mind. And I'm like, how do you make your brain be quiet like enough to meditate? That's
Be
not
a man.
real. The answer is sit in a hot bath. Just sit in a hot bath. The water
Specifically one where you can stretch your legs.
Go to a
like,
ryokan.
the water. Yeah, like literally you sit in the hot bath and the water is so hot that your brain is just fried. Like you can't think about anything. You just can't think. You have to sit there and just enjoy it. And it's awesome.
If you have time and like, you know, let's say benefits from work, you should go try hydrotherapy with massages. Because hydrotherapy places
noted.
have like, they have essentially like hot tubs with also like, usually they have sauna, steam rooms, everything like that, plus an actual massage after that.
Noted.
So-
I would also like to see this magical
No, there's a
place.
lot locally downtown.
So
All right, I'm going to check that out later.
unfortunately, I didn't get to go to an onsen this trip. I really missed. That was one thing I really missed this time, because going to an onsen last time was a magical, magical experience. But this time we stayed at a ryokan in Miyajima, and instead of staying for just the one night, which is what we did last time, we stayed for 2. And the ryokan, usually what they will provide you is half board, so you get dinner and you get breakfast. For your check-in process, they'll ask you if you want to opt in for both or just one. And then for breakfast, they specifically want to know, would you like Japanese-style breakfast or would you like Western-style breakfast? And I'm like, I can get Western-style breakfast anywhere back home. I am getting Japanese all the things. I'm staying at a ryokan.
Yep, give me the Japanese breakfast.
All the it was so good. And the thing that I really noticed on the second night is that the chef deliberately designed a different meal for us because we stayed a second night. So normally ryokan stays are just like the one night, and we could tell because all of the guests had changed out by then, and everyone we were dining with were all different people. But you could also see that all the people who were around us were getting the meal that we got the first night. On the second night, our meal was totally different. And it was
You unlock
all
the
magic.
next tier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
was-
ours was the same, where we definitely got a different breakfast. Because we didn't get dinner included with ours. We had breakfast, but we got a different breakfast on the 2 days.
Oh, it was
Most
awesome.
of the items were the same, but whereas like the main for the first time was freshly grilled fish, the second day it was bacon and eggs, whereas fish was just like
A side
on the
dish.
plate.
Yeah. And the first night, the first breakfast, Angelo will probably want to talk about this, there was natto. And in the second breakfast, there was not.
No, there was natto every time.
No, there wasn't natto the second breakfast.
Yes, there was.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
I didn't see it.
I didn't touch it. I
I
did
didn't
not
see
fuck
it.
with it the second time.
Oh, okay.
I've been interested in trying natto because every time you see it in anime, they're like, oh, natto, that's disgusting. How can you possibly like... And I think that I'm reasonably adventurous with my food.
Uh-huh.
I like to try new things. So I was like, you know what? I'll give natto a good try. I didn't 100% understand what I was doing, but I opened up the natto. I had finished everything else on the plate except for the pickled vegetables. Before trying the natto, I was just like, in case I need the palate cleanser, I have the strong pickled things.
Smart.
Okay. So, I open up the natto and there's a couple packets of stuff in there, and I'm like, oh, what are these? I guess I'll put them in the natto. I open up the natto and it's so stringy. The strings are connected to the second lid. I'm stretching this thing. I'm stretching it 2 feet, and the strings are still connected. And I'm like, what the fuck is going? Good lord! It is way stringier than I ever considered possible. I start mixing it up. I throw the other sauces in. I mix it all up, and I'm like, okay. The smell is filling the room.
Oh boy.
I mix it up, and I go in for a bite. I go in for a bite of the natto. It touches my tongue. Like 3 taste buds make contact, and I start dry heaving. I immediately eject the natto from my mouth with a speed hitherto before not seen to the people of the area. JR Rail is developing new Shinkansen technology with the speed that I spat that natto out with.
Poor thing.
It was
so
not very
sorry.
good.
You don't have to eat natto
I
by
knew-
itself, for one thing.
You're not supposed to, apparently.
You're supposed to eat it with
you can
rice,
eat
but
it
we
with
didn't know
rice.
We
that.
contacted someone. We contacted our good friend
Yeah.
Girl DM, and Girl DM was like, "No, you did it wrong. You're supposed
Yeah.
to. First of all, you're supposed to whip up the natto a
Yep.
lot more until the strings are practically opaque,
Yeah.
and then you're supposed to put it on rice or something." Like what
It's
I
the
did
equivalent of,
was
like,
basically taking Australian Vegemite,
Yes, I was
digging in
just
with
about
a
to say.
spoon and putting the whole thing in your mouth. No, you're supposed to put it on the carbs.
Yeah. It's like Marmite and Vegemite. Like with toasts, you're not supposed to like heap it on like peanut butter. It's supposed to be like the thinnest layer you could possibly put, unless you want way more than that. But generally speaking, yeah, natto is supposed to be enjoyed with rice. It's
Yes. So I did it wrong.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, I'm not going to try to do it right.
I'm so sorry this was your experience, Angelo.
You should have.
It was very. I didn't try any natto because I have learned about myself that I don't like pickled foods and I don't like fermented foods. I think this is probably because like I grew up eating
like beer?
Canadian cuisine. Pardon? Oh, I guess
like
that's
beer?
true. I do like I like a handful because like I like pickles, like pickled cucumbers, but I don't like any other kind of pickled vegetable.
You don't like kimchi?
Fair.
Nope, don't like kimchi.
Do you like
I
miso?
can eat it, but I don't like it.
Do you like miso?
Kind of. I like miso.
No,
soup.
you like
I do
miso because you
miso
make
soup.
miso. Yeah, I know you make miso at home.
Yeah, I
or,
like miso.
Susu.
Like I
Yeah.
do like miso. So like I like a handful of pickled and fermented foods, but I don't like all pickled and fermented foods. And
Fair.
so I tend to not experiment because it's like I know that like the handful of pickled and fermented foods I like are either ones that have strong flavors, but I grew up with those flavors, or they have mild flavors. Like I would say beer has a very mild fermented taste, in my opinion, at least. And like miso also is it's a very mild umami flavor versus like pickled ginger is very strong. Pickled cabbage is very strong. So I was like, I'm probably not going to like natto. So I'm like, I'm not even going to try and waste some perfectly good sealed natto. Because if Angelo doesn't like it, then I'm definitely not going to enjoy it.
That's fair.
But the Japanese breakfast was amazing.
I
10.
feel like all of us are really missing Japan,
Yeah.
but there is a great way to experience the best of what Japan has to offer, and I'm talking about Shiba Inu. They're the cutest dogs known to man,
That's true.
famous to Japan, and apparently one of them is going to be speedrunning at AGDQ.
Yeah, please explain. Please elaborate.
Explain this news that has just popped up, please.
So I have been involved with AGDQ for a few years now, and it's always super fun. And one of the fun things is usually anything that's, let's say, outside of the normal sphere of speedrunning. So there are things like blindfolded runs. There are typically things like what we call the awful block, which is usually just the worst games, but we found a way to play them fast, so they're slightly less worse.
Yay!
Yay.
In this case, yeah. Well, you're not spending as much time. But
True.
in this case, we have an entry that of a Shiba Inu who will be unassisted, will be speedrunning a game. Basically, someone coached their dog by the name of Peanut Butter.
Oh.
That's a wonderful name for a sheep.
Yeah, and they're going to be playing an old NES game called Gyromite. I think there's going to be, obviously there's going to be a modified controller in play here. But it's super cute. The game's fairly simplistic. And the controller, I think it looks like just like a giant paddle where the dog can almost sort of just press left and right, more or less. I haven't looked into the entire run yet because partly I want to be surprised. I want to also enjoy Peanut Butter's record-setting run at AGDQ 2024, which is in January. So
That's so cute.
it's super
I am
cute.
excited for this already. I need to tune into AGDQ this year just for Doge running.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sent you guys the link just to take a quick look, but
Man, you just reminded me of all the puppies that we saw in Japan. Great.
what about the catos? There's many catos.
Oh, there were so
There were
many
lots of
catos. They were
catos.
so cute.
Lots of catos.
So cute. When Dio and Angelo and I were walking through Harajuku, there are a lot of animal cafes in Harajuku, but in particular
We
there
saw
was a
Pig
fella at the side of the road who was just waving over new customers, and he had an otter on his shoulders.
The Otter Cafe.
And it was so
Yo.
wild because I had walked by that cafe in the morning. I was like, yeah, there's an otter cafe there, cool. And then we're walking back through Harajuku at night, or in the evening, I guess. And everybody behind, I'm walking ahead in the group and everybody's walking behind me and they go, otter. And I'm like, yeah, guys, there's an otter cafe there. And they're like, no, otter. And
otter.
I turn and see the otter on the guy and I'm like, oh, it was so
Yeah.
cute. I loved it.
Yep. So adorable.
Did any of you actually
Little
go
guy
to a
was having a
specialty
lot of
cafe?
fun.
We didn't.
We didn't. We did not go to any specialty
specialty
cafes.
cafes.
It was
Okay.
it was kind of on my list of if we see any cool specialty cafes that we want to do, we'll go. And I didn't really see any that I wanted to do.
I could have done the Pig Cafe.
Oh, I would have done the Pig Cafe with you. I didn't.
It's just that when we were walking by it, we had a different mission.
Oh, that's true. We had a different appointment in the area that we had to attend first. So I didn't see any that I was like, yes, I absolutely have to experience this cafe, or my
Us
life
neither.
is, my life is ruined.
Yeah.
I originally had planned that we would go to one of the anime collab cafes. But pre-trip, I learned that to go to attend most of these, it's usually a lottery registration-based system.
Oh gosh.
And I was like,
Yeah.
maybe in the future I might investigate this, but there's no current series with cafes at the time that I'm going to be there that I want to bother with the headache of figuring out how I enter into the lottery.
We ducked into a Square Enix cafe very quickly to go check out their merch section. We were whelmed.
Nice.
Yeah, we were
It was
whelmed.
fine.
Unlucky.
Yeah.
They didn't have anything in stock that we would have wanted. They had a couple of the play art sets, but none of the characters that we liked. They had this is the same story. They would have an item, but for the wrong either game or for the wrong character.
Interesting.
And then it was just
Yeah, I will say,
Yeah.
I did notice, so we went to one mall in Shibuya, and the one thing I've noticed is there's malls everywhere, and as a result of there being malls everywhere, there's little pop-up stores everywhere. Anywhere you go, there is a pop-up, and whether it's a collab of an independent artist, or a company, or a couple of companies, there's pop-ups everywhere. And one of the stores we went to in Shibuya, they had a Jujutsu Kaisen pop-up, which as I expected, there were a lot of people in there. And most interestingly, the most recent episode of the anime had aired the previous night.
Oh.
So I was like, okay, it's going to be super popular because like the most recent episode just aired last night. And so we're walking through and they have the big TV and like a bunch of big posters showing off stuff. And even if you don't know, you don't need to know too much about Jujutsu Kaisen, but the really like center point focus of that episode was a character named Nanami, and all of his merch in that pop-up was gone. Everything.
There you go.
If it was Nanami related, it was not there. And like a lot of the other characters, like, because there are all these characters who are more popular than others, like a lot of their stuff was sold out. And it had been clear that probably this pop-up had been going on for like the week. And I think we went on, this would have been like,
It was a weekend.
it was a weekend, so it was like Sunday, so it was probably like the last day of this pop-up. So like a lot of stuff was sold out, but it was very clear like which characters were super popular because all of their stuff was gone. And it was also clear that like the really like the really like amazing merch was gone first. And most of what was left was like very tiny acrylic stands, like buttons, like the smaller, lighter merch was really what was left.
I want to speak to that just like to a certain extent. I don't have a lot of experience with the merch side of things, but like we talked about quickly about like, having to get rezos, for example, at a cafe or some other experience.
100%.
Japan does not mess around with the rezo system. Like you
Nope.
want,
It's
if
seamless.
you want something that is being released soon, you get your place in line, whether it's online or physical at a restaurant or a pop-up shop. I'm sure there's lots of ways, like they use a queue system to a T.
Like ahead of time.
Yeah. And it's very serious. There's a restaurant that we're planning to book for my trip to Japan, and it's kind of well known on the internet. It's called Kichi Kichi, which is like this omurice restaurant with this very charming cook who makes really delicious looking omurice dishes
Is
and
that
stuff like that.
the omurice guy?
Yes,
The omurice guy.
omurice guy.
Oh, that's gonna be so much fun.
We haven't booked yet because our time frame hasn't come up yet for like the day that we want to book for, essentially.
Yeah.
Because they book about 2 or 3 weeks in advance, so you kind of have to
In advance, yeah. And so it's not like you can go in and book. You have to wait until it's a set time.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we've done test bookings where we're like, hey, let's say if we wanted to book for a different day, like earlier, let's just see what the reservation system is like. 2 minutes. There's been we literally set an alarm. We went to and when the alarm went off, we checked like the reservation day, and we're like, okay, cool, there's slots. And then 2 minutes later, we checked again, slots all gone.
2 minutes.
It's like,
Oh my god.
Yeah.
we're talking for
like,
a
people
restaurant.
are ready.
Yeah.
Like they have alarms on their phone or they're lined up outside the door. Like what was crazy
Yep.
is the mall that we went to, one specific mall on a day because we were sent by a good friend to go visit a pop-up for a character that she liked.
Yeah.
And Angelo and I got there early, and there was like really
No line.
early because we were trying to. There was no line because we were trying to figure out like where everybody was meeting up for breakfast. And by the time we had met up with everybody and went to go like prepare to get ready to go into the mall, a line had formed to get into the mall that was
Around-
wrapping around the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was
That
flipping out.
sounds
I was like,
exactly
oh my
right.
God, we're going to get there and there's going to be nothing left.
Thing left.
Yeah.
Now, in our case, I think people were not lining up for that particular collab.
Yeah.
I think they were just lining up to get in the mall in general.
Yeah.
Like I think they were just lining up to get into the mall because there were tons of collabs going on in that mall.
Tons.
But like
They
the
had
one
a
that
collab
we went
floor.
to go see, yeah, they had a whole collab floor even. And what was interesting was the one that we were lining up for that we wanted to go see was on the second floor. And once we got off on the second floor and figured out where it was, like it wasn't that busy, but everybody, like the line went straight up the escalators and kept going and going and going.
Yep. So I was very shocked. Like
Serious business.
from the perspective of someone who's seen like the rare pop-up, because pop-ups are pretty rare that pop up in Calgary, but
Yeah.
you know, if one pops up, yeah, you could see a line like that for sure, but they're
first
all
day or
going
so,
deliberately
yeah.
to the one interesting thing in the area, and that's usually just
Yeah.
the one pop-up. Not like a ton of people who are lined up to go to the mall at large, because that mall
Yeah.
did have lots of very interesting pop-ups on each floor. They have an entire floor set aside for pop-ups, but man, that wasn't where we were going. It was on the second floor,
Yeah.
not floor 4. So it was
Yeah.
just a shock to me.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
queuing in Japan is a big thing. It's taken very seriously. I did have a giggle. Like, you could tell which people were from cultures where queuing is a big thing. Because I would say, like, in Canada, queuing is a big thing as well. Maybe not as much as Japan.
Not quite
it's
as
not as
structured.
high. It's not as high of a demand of queuing, but we still.
We still
queue.
do it. Like, there's definitely still a strong queuing culture here, versus like cultures where there isn't a strong queuing culture. Because I had this giggle at the airport. I went to go get McDonald's for me and Angelo so that we could eat before, you know, we planned to check in our bags and stuff and to kill time. And, you know, there was a bit of a queue outside the McDonald's. And, you know, I just stood and I was like, okay, I'm going to wait. Like, you know, it might take a little while to get through this queue, but, you know, we'll get through it eventually. And what was really interesting was 3 different couples in front of me. Like, my time in the queue sped up because 3 different couples in front of me gave up on the queue. They were like, let's just go somewhere else. Like, I don't want to wait. And it was like,
Interesting.
but you're going to have to go somewhere else.
Yeah,
to
you're
queue.
spending
Like,
more
you're not
time
gonna go
anyways.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're not going to go anywhere else where there's no line. It's not going to exist. But
Mm-hmm.
you could tell which people were used to like a queuing and like waiting in line for something versus people who were like, "Oh, I have to wait in a queue. Like this is too much of an inconvenience."
Yeah. So that really shows up at train stations. Like anywhere you go, people know exactly where the queue is, which way the queue goes, and how to
Yep.
structure the queue so that it's out of the way of people getting off the train. It's very, very structured.
Yeah,
so
we've talked
going back
about
to
that for
Jay's bit
transit in
about how
general.
queuing is like very ingrained in restaurants, like I went
Mm-hmm.
to a very nice souffle pancake place in Ginza. Very nice. You show up and there's a sign that says, "Hi, we're on the 7th floor, but please don't come up until it's your time in the queue. Here's the QR code to scan to get into the queue." I scan the QR code. It tells me I have 380 minutes of time ahead of me and how many people are ahead of me. I go next door somewhere with seating and I have lunch first. And by the time lunch
That's
is
good.
over, by the time lunch is over, it has been exactly 1 hour. I am now second in line. I'm just going to stand outside until it's my time. Like, that's it. But, like, the time estimates, exactly what Dio said. A lot of people probably showed up because this place was highly rated. They signed into the queue, saw the time, and ditched.
Yeah.
Yep. Same thing happened when we went for sushi. Like, our wait time was an hour, and at first, you know, Angela was like, should we try and walk somewhere else? And I'm like, nope, we're going to get our spot in line and we're going to wait because I guarantee you people will give up. And we were in within about 20 minutes,
Nice.
I would say.
15 to 20.
15 to 20 minutes. Like,
Nice.
it did not take the full amount of time. And that's because you can tell that there are people who have queued and they either didn't show up, like they went to go do something else and forgot to come back, or they gave
Yeah.
up.
Yep.
Now, I think all of us should responsibly queue for the next episode of the Otafest podcast.
It's
I
true.
think so too.
Wait your dang turns.
Yes.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Thanks. Welcome
Take
back.
care.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.